A parent recently told me, "How can anyone be so cavalier with the lives of my children? They can't go to school where kids will pick their noses, roughhouse, and won't follow social distancing rules. My kids are too precious." Another parent said this, "My son can't learn virtually. He needs socialization. Otherwise, the depression and anxiety of the past 6 months will continue to rob my family of my bright, happy boy. He's going to school." Other choices are equally difficult. "Rabbi, my father's dying. I knew it would happen, but now that it's here, I can't even visit to say goodbye. At the funeral, they'll be in person and won't be all wearing masks. Plus, getting on a plane is too risky. But should I sit at home and do nothing? What do I do?" Another said this, "Rabbi, my mother's dying. Please come and help us say goodbye. The nursing home already approved it. All you need to do is show up wearing a mask and gloves. We need this." Is one right or wrong? In every conversation, we hear the struggle with the decisions we're forced to make. We hear the anguish and find it reflected internally. These decisions are relentless, and the questions they raise don't feel good. When we consider them, we experience an anxiety, an internal nagging sensation, or simple discomfort. We are confronted by thinking, which is anathema to the way we understand the world. This challenging internal struggle is what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. It's when we hold two or more inconsistent beliefs, ideas, or values, or when we do something that contradicts our beliefs, ideas, or values. We're all creatures of inconsistencies, some small and some much larger. And yet we dislike living in the discomfort, let alone bathing in it. We attempt to find solutions, making decisions and then rationalizing them. We struggle, and eventually we choose which value to prioritize. It's Rosh Hashanah. These struggles, or what we call cognitive dissonance, are at the core of the Akedah story, which we'll read tomorrow morning. In it, God asks Abraham to sacrifice Isaac in order to show his allegiance to God. We're not privy to Abraham's thoughts or feelings during this episode. I imagine, though, he's beset with internal turmoil, struggling with whether to follow God's command to sacrifice his son or embrace his love for Isaac and save him. Abraham's example is our collective history. Here is one of our history today. When George Floyd was killed and Black Lives Matter protests began, many of us felt compelled to act. We showed up in the weeks that followed. The crowds varied in size, as did people's comfort level. I watched some march in the throng, and some stay as far away from others as possible. Some raised their voices in protest, while others kept silent and held signs afloat. We stepped into an internal struggle, a moment of cognitive dissonance. What was our priority? Safety or passion for justice? Every time we face this internal struggle, there are immense implications in our lives. Due to our unconscious motivation to reduce the discomfort we feel, we attempt to justify our initial decision and cement it as correct. We become entrenched and then exhausted by the need to rationalize repeatedly. But we must make decisions, and we do so by prioritizing our values at any given moment. Although it requires lots of internal work, the result is being secure in our decisions. Attending the BLM protest prioritized my personal shared values of activism and B'Tselem Elohim, that we're all made in God's image. Those who send our kids to school prioritize the values of connection and community, while those who keep our kids home prioritize safety. How do we, if not resolve, at least live with our dissonance? It is by choosing and championing our values and priorities. We do so with compassion. We do so by not judging. We do so with courage, compassion. We can exercise kindness for ourselves in our decisions. When we consider the struggle it takes to make each decision, Rather than becoming intransigent, compassion is our companion. When we take comfort in knowing we found the best possible decision, compassion is our companion. And when we allow ourselves to change our minds, compassion is our companion. Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning taught us that between stimulus and response is choice. Abraham made a choice to follow God and go forward sacrificing his son. We make challenging decisions each day. We have the choice to show compassion to ourselves, to admit the struggle, knowing we made the best decision for today. Being non-judgmental. We are living through an unprecedented time where everyone is mired in struggle. We could easily judge the myriad decisions our friends make daily. Or maybe we can learn from our fellow sojourners here on earth without rendering judgment. Two rabbis in the first century, Hillel and Shamai, exemplified this lesson. They disagreed over everything. Hillel, though, was considered the wiser rabbi because he learned from Shammai and always took Shammai's position into consideration. He didn't judge Shammai as a bad person, even when disagreeing with the teaching. It's easy to decry another's decisions, much harder to practice non-judgment, especially in the face of impossible circumstances. In this way, we show the value of showing mercy to others, even if we disagree in principle. When parents send their children to school or not, and we disagree, we can be non-judgmental, recognizing that we disagree with the decision, not the person. When we see people hugging, walking through a store with their mask below their nose, we can be upset. We can disagree with their decision. However, we need not judge them and dismiss them as bad people until we walk in their shoes and know their struggles and values, their realities. And finally, courage. This time of year can help us garner courage to prioritize our values as we prepare to face the decisions yet to come. Our tradition exemplifies the need for courage in the story of Rabbi Zushia. As he lay close to dying, his students gathered, noticing tears in his eyes. "Rabbi, why are you crying?" they asked. "I'm frightened of what will happen when I meet God," he responded. "But Rabbi," his students protested, "you've taught us so well. You've made the world a better place through your teaching." "It'll all be fine," Zushia countered. "I'm not concerned that I didn't teach you or anyone else enough. Nor am I concerned that God will ask me why I wasn't more like Moses, a great prophet, or like Solomon, a wonderful wise man. No, I'm afraid God's going to ask me why I wasn't more like Zushia." That is our ultimate fear, that we are not more like ourselves, that we do not prioritize our own values in the face of impossible decisions. We will all continue to stare down challenges we never chose, questions we shouldn't have to ask. We need strength of conviction and the courage to be holy ourselves. Our biggest challenge is ensuring that we make the best decision for us, for our family, for today. This Rosh Hashanah, may we have the courage to make those decisions and the strength to live with them. In 5781, may we be more compassionate to ourselves. May we look upon others without judgment. May we have the courage to make the best decisions for today. Compassion, being non-judgmental, courage. That is our prescription.